If you are a dancer and want to read books on Indian dance, Dr. Kapila Vatsyayan is the first port of call. She brought ecology, archaeology, architecture, painting, dance, music and theatre together. I would like to start with her as a tribute to her contributions. I am going to summarize the book Indian Classical Dance chapter-wise in a series of videos. The first chapter that we are going to deal with is the history of dance. This book covers history of dance in India and the theory and technique and other well-known classical dance forms. Kapila Vatsyayan divides the history of dance into 3 or 4 periods. The first is prehistoric and proto-historic. This is the time before 2nd century BC. Then followed by early medieval period, which is from 2nd century BC to 9th century AD. And then the late medieval period, which is from 10th century AD to 18th century. Followed by finally the modern period, which is 18th century AD to the contemporary India. Evidence for this period is found in cave paintings, engravings, Mohenjo-daro and Harappa civilizations, literary evidence like Brahmanas, Upanishads, Vedas and the epics like Mahabharata and Ramayana. Evidences for this period can be found in stupas at Sanchi, Amaravati and Nagarjunakonda, Ellora caves and the temples that were built during Gupta period. There is a very beautiful video made by Doordarshan on the temples of India during Gupta period. If you are interested, please check the link out. Sanskrit had a big influence during first and second periods. Regional styles were just emerging in this time. Natya Shastra, the popular and the very first treatise on dance, was most likely compiled during this period. Dr. Kapila believes that dance was very popular and mature by this time. She states that Natya Shastra was just a codification of what was already being practiced, especially stanakas and charis. Dr. Kapila argues that dance must have been central to the culture. She gives evidence in sculpture, mural paintings, and literature. This is also the period of the emergence of the sculptural figures like gods and goddesses like Shiva, Durga, Saraswati and Ganesha. Interesting thing is each has a dance aspect to it called Nuttamurti. In literature, epics like Ramayana and Mahabharata prescribed many dance performances. Precise descriptions of dancers and dance performances can also be seen in works of Kalidasa and his successors. For example, the 4th act of Kalidasa's Vikramorvashi could not have been presented without dance. That is, it cannot just depend on spoken word. 2 kinds of treatises were written during this period. The first category was purely theoretical. The second category focused on either sound, music or dance. In this category, we can subdivide this into 2 kinds of categories. The first one talks only about a particular art form like Sangeet Ratnakara, Abhinay Darpana. The second category talks about more art forms like poetry, music, dance, for example Vishnudharputra Purana. To emphasize the point that dance was very popular and well developed, Dr. Kapila mentions how Karanas, Stanakas, Charis can be seen in temples all over India. Karanas can be seen in sequence in Brihadeshwara temple in Tanjore. Many movement patterns, including solo standing figures to flying figures, can be seen in the monuments at Khajuraho. In fact, temples all over India are mentioned by Dr. Kapila in this chapter very elaborately. I want to highlight this statement from her verbatim. From the lowermost panels to the highest lintels, from the ground to ceiling, each is self-contained, and yet each is part of the total orchestration of the sculptured figure, as if it is a choreography of dance. This orchestration of choreography leaves a staggering impression of the popularity of dance. Sarangadeva in Sangita Ratnakara describes two kinds of movements. One, Suddha Paddhati or purely classical or academic form. Two, Desi Paddhati or the regional variants. I quote her again. The recognition of regional styles contributed greatly to the further development of the individual, distinctive, classical styles of the various regions. Now we are in the late medieval period, 10th century to 18th century. Based on geographic, economic and religious differences, each region developed a distinctive style. Regional manuals like Balarama Bharatam from Kerala, Nutta Ratnavali from Andhra Pradesh, Sangitopanishad Sharodhara from Gujarat and so on appeared. That is, one can find manuals on dance from practically every region of the country. Despite regional variations, all schools subscribed to the basic principles of the Natya Shastra tradition. Many dance styles revolved around Krishna's love story. This sharp turn towards Krishna and Vishnu is another unifying factor in all regional variations. A social stigma was attached to dance during the British. It was not part of any arts curriculum. Temples did not patronize dance. The tradition was passed on orally to the next generations. Towards the end of British rule, as a sign of national pride, there was a revival in the interest in dance. Quoting her again, the classical dance styles of contemporary India are largely reconstructions of these fragments of antiquity. Sometimes the content is old, but the form and technique new. At others, new content is infused into an older format. That brings us to the end of the first chapter. It was a great overview, isn't it? Please post your comments and feedback. Thank you.